Dude, what the f- It's a cool intro, right? I hope you like that. I thought, why not do something a little different and just have some fun with it. So I had created a Facebook author page. You can find me on there if you're one of the old people that uses Facebook. It's David Batterina Author. And I did that video as the cover video for the page, just to do something kind of goofy and fun. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. Before I get into what I want to talk about today about creative inspiration and finding it and finding your creative voice, just a quick note, I've got a website that is redone and ready to go. All of my social media stuff is on there. So if you want to get in touch with me somehow, YouTube comments are getting difficult to manage, so I'm going to switch to only answering comments from people who are actually subscribers. That way we avoid all the infj nonsense that tends to go on with a lot of the know-it-alls that go ahead and get attracted to stuff like that. If you do want to get in touch with me and you are a writer, you are an INFJ, and my videos resonate with you, please, pretty please, hit the website, find me on Facebook. Instagram I don't really pay much attention to, but it's on there, but just don't even, whatever. And Twitter, but again, Twitter's sort of a dumpster fire. The best way to get in touch with me is just the contact form through my site or on Facebook, through there, or whatever, just one of those ways, and we can talk. I really do appreciate you guys, and I love to engage with you when you're my people and my fellow INFJ aliens and fellow writers and just people who like some honesty, and somebody talking about the things that they're going through and hopefully giving you a perspective that you hadn't considered, like candy corn is trash, because it is. And if you don't believe that, I'm sorry, you're just wrong. So I've been thinking a lot lately about creative inspiration and your creative voice, or basically finding kind of that thing that's yours. What is that thing, that purpose, that one thing that sort of drives you? And I was reflecting on this because during the whole of my life so far, all 44 years, I was thinking to myself, okay, there were definitely times where I felt like a voice was talking to me and saying, you should be doing this. And I was not listening, which is kind of crappy, and I'm really sorry to my inner voice. Here I go, FE, right? I'm feeling bad about my inner voice. But I really wasn't paying attention. I was thinking of doing the things that I thought I was supposed to do, not the things that I wanted to do. And I can see this going way, way back. When I was a kid, all I wanted to do was create stories. And I think a lot of this was just who I was. I had older siblings, so I'm the youngest in my family by 10 years. And so, I had siblings, but by the time I was really, aware and active, they were older, they were moving out of the house and stuff like that. So I had kind of siblings, but I was an only child at the same time, which actually was a pretty good gig because I got a lot of the stuff that I wanted. Whatever, it's fine. Something happened when I was a kid. And it was I was out with my mom, and we were doing just yard sales, going to yard sales and stuff like that. It's a big deal, just driving around, I think, on a Sunday. And we went to this one person's house, and there was a book there. And it was how to draw comic book characters. And I was like, I really want this. And I was probably, I don't know, 9 years old, 8 or 9 years old, something like that. And I'd always, been into art class and things like that in elementary school. It was always kind of like my thing. I loved to draw. I loved when we used clay. Anything that had to do with my hands and creating and colors and doing things like that was something that I really, really gravitated towards. And a lot of kids do. That's not something that's abnormal, and it's not a calling, so to speak. But for me, it was, forget math, forget English, forget social studies, forget all that nonsense. I needed art class because I needed to create. So anyway, we're at this yard sale, and there's this book. And it was a big, thick book, and it had these really cool comic things on the cover. And some of them were silly, and some of them were really amazing. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I need this. I need to know how to draw. And I need to know how to create, and this can teach me how to do it. My mom got it for me. It was like $1. This person was selling this older book, and my goodness, it just consumed me for a really long time. I still remember I wish I could find it. I remember what the cover looked like, and just the pages and the different sections, and it was different type of characters that you could draw and create and everything else, and it was always something that I really loved. Now, I grew up in a household where my brothers, they often played Dungeons and Dragons. So I was always listening to stories, and the stories were amazing, and there were elves and magicians and, all sorts of cool things that were going on. And I was like, man, this is really neat stuff. Of course, I was like the annoying kid brother, so I didn't play. Well, I mean, I did, but like by myself, and nobody would play, and it was fine. Like, it was cool. I'm much more comfortable with stories in my own head as it is anyway. So once I got this book and I started creating, my mind went nuts. I started creating everything. Now, I'm heavily influenced by comic books. I was a Marvel comic collector back in the day. I remember going to a store every week and there was a new Marvel comic. I needed to have it. I collected X-Men and New Mutants and all sorts of stuff. And one of my favorites that came out was Johnny the Homicidal Maniac, the artist of which is the same artist who does Invader Zim on Nickelodeon. Johnny the Homicidal Maniac is not okay for kids. Just saying, but man, it was a good magazine. So I started drawing and creating. And, this was early on in my life. I was maybe, at this point, where I was really getting into it, 10, 11 years old. I convinced my parents to snag for me a drafting table. So I had a space to draw and to create, and markers and crayons and pencils and everything. I used to love doing stuff in pencil. And so one of the first things I started coming up with is, what would I look like as a comic character? Now, I'm going to share this with you. Not a lot of people have seen these, but I actually have my originals. My original couple of drawings. I have 3. I'm going to show you 2 of them. And this is my self-portrait as a comic book character. So, first one, here is your hero right here, right? He looks pretty cool. I don't know what the big smile is for or anything like that. And my second one, this is the one. This is the self-portrait, right? It's the reluctant hero, slightly shaggy, wearing the mask because he doesn't want to show his true identity to the world. Gee, I wonder what that's all about. Once an INFJ, always an INFJ, people, seriously. And has that kind of puckered face because he's realizing that every calamitous circumstance that he could possibly be in is completely his fault. And boy, that does imitate life. Because that's how I saw myself when I was maybe like 10 or something like that. And my hair was a little bit longer back then. And it really hasn't changed all that much. It's kind of how I see myself now. All this insane stuff that goes on in my head is, well, it's all my fault. From there, I started making up stories and branching out and doing other things and creating a character and scenarios. And one of the first ones I did, and I'll tell you about this one, and I actually have this original as well. I'll throw some pictures up for you. And it's kind of appropriate that we're right around November anyway, was called The Turkey Avenger. Yes, I drew a comic about a superhero turkey wearing a cape with a big T and fires machine guns and has sunglasses and smokes a cigar. Look, I watched a lot of like Commando and Rambo when I was a kid, and so this was just kind of like the thing. And this is how my creative brain has always worked. This is how I did it as a kid. It's how I work as an adult. It's the thing, people. The Turkey Avenger seeks vengeance because he was put on the chopping block at a Purdue factory and he was ready to escape because he wasn't going to let it happen to him. So there's elements of perseverance and vengeance and all this kind of cool stuff, and him, just lashing out at his circumstance and choosing not to die. I'll preface this by saying, I have nothing against turkeys, but I totally eat them because turkey's delicious. So I'll flip through like some of the scenes real quick for you here. So he starts out and he's on the chopping block at the factory, and there's meat hooks and stuff like that. And he's like, "No, I can escape, and I'm never going to do this again, and I'm going to be free." And then boom, like he turns into the Turkey Avenger, and he's got, I don't know where he got it from, but he's got the cape and the gun and the shades and well, I think he already had the shades actually. Yeah, I really didn't work that out, okay? So, like, I'm not great as a comic book artist, but this is the kind of stuff that I came up with. Then he's like, die, evil butcher, and he's like shooting the butcher, and then this hand comes out and grabs him, and he's like, ah, and then there's this shadowy face, right, that you can't really see, and he's like, you're gonna pay, turkey. Like, it ends, and then there's this end credit, and it's tune in to the next issue for the climactic Let's Talk Turkey. I guess my point is, as a kid, this stuff was in me, and it wasn't leaving. And then high school rolled around. And after that, I decided on a career path, which I never took, which was actually court stenography of all things. This whole time, I'm still writing here or there, writing stories, writing whatever I could, little snippets of things, what have you, anything that I could find that motivated me to talk about a character and to write about a character was something that I did. I was always interested in art and the arts. As an adult, I found my love of martial arts, and that was something that really, really stuck with me because I took it as a kid, and I loved it, and I loved the physical nature of it and everything about it. And I think martial arts taught me that kind of perseverance and that kind of drive and that kind of mindset of personal responsibility, that everything is my responsibility, and I'm not going to quit. And I'll fail before I quit, and failing is fine because then I know where my limit is and what I need to do to try to get past it and to try to grow. It's all about having that kind of self-growth mindset. It's really important because if you're just closed-minded and you think to yourself, I'm never going to get better, or you're thinking to yourself, and this is super toxic, people, like, I'm an INFJ, therefore I have anxiety, therefore I can never go out. Well, that's wrong. You can, anxiety or not, and you can learn some things about yourself to help yourself think through those situations and be okay. And that's what makes you a mature INFJ, to be honest. So anyway, I keep writing and I keep doing things, and then I start getting ideas. And I'm like, you know what? I need to start putting these ideas together. And then something tragic happens, and my brother passes away. And it was at that point where I'm thinking, all of these things that I say I want to do and that are in my heart that I know I have to do, I need to start listening. And I need to start doing those things. Before I started this YouTube channel in the sense that you see it right now, I had been recording YouTube videos for almost a year. And I didn't post a single one, because I was nervous and I was afraid of being judged. When I started writing, I wrote and I wouldn't show anybody, and I would either delete what I wrote or just save it somewhere and forget about it or what have you. Wouldn't ever finish anything or anything like that because everything else got in the way. But when that happened, it taught me that life is very, very short, and that if you don't do the things that you really do love and that you have a passion about, and if you look back at your life and you see those little signs here and there, I used to love to draw. I used to love to make characters. I used to love coming up with stories. This was a through line. Like when I look back at it now, it's so obvious. But at the time, everything else is going on, and you're thinking, well, this is cool, I want to do this, and this is cool, and I want to do this. It's cool to other people, but it's not necessarily cool to you. And doing it won't make you more awesome. Doing it is going to kill you if it's not your passion. Now, that's not to say that having a stable job that maybe is not your passion is a bad thing. Of course, it's great. You need to be able to put food on the table, feed your kids, pay your bills, and all those kinds of things. But you have to let your mind run to the things that it wants to be immersed in. That's part of being fulfilled, I think. And all of this has led me to where I am right now, where I'm working on a book and I'm quickly approaching a finish line, where I'm writing anything, anywhere, all the time. I even wrote like a fake ad, because this is my inspiration. I wrote a fake ad for a social anxiety medication. You know how like you hear the commercials and they're like, if users of this might experience this, this, and this, like where they read the full disclaimer at the end, and you're thinking to yourself, dear God, like if I take this medicine, like I'm going to be bleeding out of every orifice that I've ever had, but at least my social anxiety will be gone. So I wrote one of those. You know what? I'm going to read it to you. right? Okay, so I'll do a voiceover. I'm just going to hang out for a second, and you'll hear me doing the ad. 1, 2, 3, go.
So if you're tired of the prison that is social anxiety, break free with Freebificate. Side effects may include dizziness, dry mouth, blurred vision, and aggressive behavior. Some patients of Freebificate have experienced sensitivity to light, moderate to severe slurred speech, accelerated body hair growth, and excessively swollen brows. See your doctor if painful anal discharges last more than 72 consecutive hours.
So there you go, right? It's one of those things where creative inspiration hit, and I just ran with it. I may never do anything with that, or it may end up in a book that I write at some point. I don't know, but it's just what I want to do. So I decide to have fun with it. By the way, don't take that medication because swollen brow, excessive body hair growth, all that kind of stuff. So now we get to the meat and potatoes of this particular video, which is I want you to look back at your life and look at those things through childhood, through your formative years, and growing into an adult. What are those things that you're like, this is what I wanted to do? This is, this was it. This was the common thread. And to further answer this question, are you doing that right now? And if not, why? And would you ever go back to it? And would you be okay with yourself if you went back to it and you weren't great at it, but you accepted that and did it anyway because it's just something that you love? And we love what we love, There's nothing wrong with that. So anyway, thank you. I hope these thoughts I hope this is thought-provoking for you. And I hope you enjoyed some of the stuff that I shared with you, and I really hope you like that video opening. Again, come to Facebook if you have that account, if you're one of the old people, and hang out with me there. Or certainly hit my website. It's like all nice and shiny. I put a lot of work into it to get it just the way I wanted, and all of my stuff is on there. I also have a mailing list on there, so if you're curious about things that I've got going on and book updates and things like that, I'll be sending those out when I have more than 5 people on the list, which is what I have right now. So thank you all so much, and I really hope we can continue all of this awesome interaction. So say hi, write to me, and talk with each other, because we are a community of aliens in a lot of ways. Thank you so much, and I will see you on the next video.